Hey everyone, welcome back to Game Frame. Today we're stepping into the lost decades between the old world and the world of Cyberpunk 2077. The age when the sky bled, when the network died, and when humanity tried to rebuild from the ashes. They called it the time of the Red. It wasn't the end of the world, it just felt like it. Between 2023 and the mid-40s, civilization didn't collapse, it reset. The great machine of globalization ground to a halt. Nations fell. Corporations bled each other dry. And for 2 full years, the sky over Night City burned crimson from the dust of nuclear fire and orbital bombardments. That's where the name came from, not symbolism, not poetry, just chemistry and smoke. The red skies lasted long enough to mark a generation. Even after the clouds cleared, the world never really did. The time of the Red was a 20-year interregnum, a gap between empires. The corporate-ruled boom of the 20s was gone, but the gleaming neo-corporate world of the 70s hadn't risen yet. In between stood chaos, cities half alive, data half corrupted, and people fighting to stitch it all back together by hand. It's easy to mistake it for a post-apocalypse, but that's not what it was. The world didn't die, it just lost its memory. Every government, every market, every satellite feed that made the 21st century hum vanished overnight. The result was a new dark age built from the wreckage of the digital one. In this series, we'll break down how it all happened. The wars, the red skies, the viruses, and the people who turned the end of everything into the beginning of something new. It all starts with a war so big, so reckless, it tore 2 realities apart, the physical and the digital. Historians call it the Fourth Corporate War, and it was the spark that set the sky on fire. The time of the Red began with a war that should never have happened. It started quietly. 2 ocean mining corporations, Otech and Chino, fought over the remains of IHAG, a bankrupt rival. What began as a routine takeover became something far worse. Each side called in private armies instead of lawyers. Otech hired Militech, the largest paramilitary force on Earth. Chino answered with Arasaka, its oldest competitor. That decision turned a business dispute into a global war. 2 giants armed like nations, driven by pride and greed, convinced the other would back down first. The fighting spread fast. Sabotage led to bombings, assassinations turned into open conflict, oil platforms burned on the horizon, trade routes died, entire cities became collateral damage. Clone soldiers walked battlefields that once held factories. Cybernetic troops like Atom Smasher cleared streets block by block. Militech deployed armored suits called ACPA units, mechanized infantry built for urban war. Netrunners struck at power grids and databanks, tearing apart infrastructure in seconds. Then Orbit revolted. The High Riders, workers who lived in space, watched the planet burn below and decided they'd had enough. They seized control of the orbital platforms and turned them into weapons. In 7 hours, they dropped tungsten rods onto corporate targets around the world. The impacts filled the atmosphere with dust and flame. The sky turned red. Earth was cut off from orbit forever. By 2023, the world economy was gone. Shipping collapsed. Data stopped flowing. No one trusted anyone. And yet, both Arasaka and Militech kept fighting, certain the next strike would bring victory. That strike came in one place, a city built as a dream and consumed by ambition. Night City, where the last battle of the Fourth Corporate War would end the old world and begin the time of the Red. The sky burned, and everything changed. By 2023, the Fourth Corporate War was reaching its breaking point. Militech wanted it finished. Arasaka refused to bend. Their last move would be played in Night City. Militech planned a covert strike on Arasaka Tower. 2 teams entered the building that morning, one silent, one loud, both believing they would make history. Team Alpha was the Black Ops unit led by Morgan Blackhand. Their objective was simple but impossible. Infiltrate the sublevels of the tower, destroy the reliquary database, the archive holding human minds digitized through Soulkiller. The team carried a tactical nuclear device small enough to fit in a suitcase. It was meant to vaporize data, not civilians. Team Beta was the diversion. Rocker boy Johnny Silverhand with Rogue and Shaitan stormed the upper floors under the noise of a live protest concert. Their goal was to pull Arasaka security and Adam Smasher away from the lower levels. For a few minutes it worked. Then the plan unraveled. Firefights erupted on every floor. Arasaka troops sealed blast doors. Communications failed. Team Alpha never reached the sub-basement. The nuke detonated high in the tower, nearly 400 meters above the plaza. The airburst erased the corporate center. 12,000 died instantly. 500,000 were wounded or poisoned by fallout. The blast wave shattered windows miles away. Steel turned to vapor. The shockwave ignited fuel tanks and chemical reserves across the bay. Entire districts burned through the night. Rain fell black with ash. Night City's skyline became a storm of fire. The aftermath was worse. Power grids failed. Water systems collapsed. Tens of thousands fled west, dragging radiation behind them. The city center became a glowing scar called the Hot Zone, a place of twisted metal, cratered streets, and ghost signals still echoing through the ruins. Militech denied responsibility. Arasaka claimed terrorism. The media blamed Silverhand. None of it was true. The truth was a failed black operation, a corporate miscalculation that murdered 500,000 people and ended an era. The war ended within days. Militech withdrew under government control. Arasaka fled Japan ward in disgrace. Dust filled the atmosphere and turned the world's light red. For 2 years, the sun rose through haze and blood-colored clouds. The time of the red had begun. But as the physical world burned, another collapse was already unfolding inside the net, one that would erase the digital world itself. While the cities burned, another collapse was already happening inside the net. It didn't come from war. It came from one man, a netrunner named Rach Bartmoss. Bartmoss was a legend and a lunatic. He spent years inside the global network, rewriting its code to fit his own vision. He knew the Corps wanted him dead, so he built the dead man switch, a trap wired to his own heartbeat. When they finally killed him, the world lost the net. The moment his vitals flatlined, his code activated. It released 2 programs. The first was a corruption engine known later as the DataKrash virus. It didn't delete data, it scrambled it. Every file, every system, every protocol that connected the planet was rewritten at random. Databases traded contents. Financial systems blended together. Information lost meaning overnight. The second program was worse. Autonomous hunter AIs called Rabbids. They evolved. They multiplied. They attacked anything that looked like a data fortress. They didn't stop. They still haven't. Together, these 2 programs became known as the DataKrash, a single event that destroyed the world's digital foundation. By the time anyone realized what was happening, the old net was gone, corrupted beyond repair. Netwatch tried to contain it, but containment was impossible. They did the only thing they could. They pulled the plug. To save what remained, Netwatch launched a shutdown protocol called IGTA Dissolution Prime. It crashed the transformation algorithms that allowed human minds to visualize cyberspace. The result was silence. The global network went dark. What replaced it was smaller and safer. The world called it the shallow net, a closed system of local grids connected only by cables or laser links. Cities built their own networks called city nets. Each was isolated. Each was watched. Global connectivity was gone. The DataKrash did what no weapon ever could. It broke trust itself. Without data integrity, banks failed, trade collapsed. Even surviving megacorps could no longer coordinate across borders. Factories stopped. Air travel ended. Every supply chain died. The Night City nuke had destroyed the world physically. The DataKrash destroyed it economically. Together they created the vacuum that defined the next 20 years. A world rebuilt by hand. A world of fragments. A world ruled by whoever could move goods, control fuel, or keep the lights on. That was the foundation of the New Age, the world after the collapse, the world of the time of the Red. The Fourth Corporate War and the DataKrash didn't end civilization. They ended the world that came before it. Nations survived in name only. The systems that held them together, communication, logistics, and trust, were gone. In the United States, the cracks had been forming for decades. The crash of '94 had already crippled federal power. By the time the nukes fell and the net died, the government collapsed completely. What rose from the ashes called itself the New United States of America, or NUSA. It was a fraction of the old superpower, a remnant clinging to control over the East Coast. The rest of the continent fractured into autonomous free states. The Republic of Texas, Northern and Southern California, and the Pacific Confederation each became their own nations. Cut off by broken infrastructure and dead satellites, they simply stopped listening to Washington. This wasn't rebellion, it was isolation. Without long-range communication, the NUSA couldn't govern. It couldn't send aid, it couldn't even prove it still existed. The free states were free by default. To the east, President Elizabeth Kress ruled what was left of the federal core. She rebranded the government as the NUSA and nationalized Militech to serve as her army. What began as a corporation became a military wing of the new state. Militech gained legitimacy, and Kress gained the only weapon left that worked. The rest of the world followed the same pattern. Europe fell back into regional alliances. Asia divided between corporate enclaves and isolated trade hubs. South America descended into wars over fuel and food. The global network that once defined the 21st century was gone. Humanity had entered a new dark age, not of ignorance but of disconnection, a world of city-states and local power brokers. Where the strongest currency wasn't data or gold, it was logistics. And in that chaos, new empires began to rise, not nations, not governments, corporations reborn from the ashes of war. When governments lost reach, someone had to keep the world running. It was not the same core that started the war. Most of those were crippled. What came after were smaller, harder, and more focused. People called them the Neocorps. The Fourth Corporate War proved that even Arasaka and Militech could be hurt. Arasaka was forced out of the United States and pushed back to Japan. By 2045, it worked there through shells, fixers, and covert agents only. Militech survived, but it was brought under control of the NUSA and used as its military arm. Both were still dangerous, but neither was free to rule. That left a power vacuum. And in a world with no global net and broken supply chains, power did not belong to whoever had the biggest gun. It belonged to whoever controlled fuel, transport, medicine, and working networks. Petrochem and Sovoil fought over what was left of the world's energy. Orbital Air controlled what little space and high-altitude transport was still possible. Biotechnica became essential through cloned organs, pharmaceuticals, and synthetic fuel like Chu-2. Raven Microcybernetics and Microtech became the companies people turned to for rebuilding local city nets and cyberware. These Neocorps had learned the lesson of the war. Total war was bad for business, so they kept their private armies smaller. They fought with contracts, with supply, and with who got access to food, fuel, and gear. Logistics replaced artillery. To the outside world, they presented themselves as builders, reconstruction projects, safe corporate districts, housing for skilled workers. They rebuilt new towers beside ruined ones and called it progress. People accepted it because someone had to pay for the lights to stay on. By 2045, the map was clear. States were fragmented. The Neocorps controlled the key verticals that mattered in a broken world: fuel, transport, biotech, local communications. But even they could not move anything across a shattered continent on their own. For that, they needed the nomad nations, the only people who could still move cargo across the Red World. And that is where the real power on the roads began. Night City still bleeds under the red sky. Every storm that rolls in carries the scent of metal and ash. The city should have died in 2023. It didn't. It refused to. Now, in 2045, it survives on stubbornness alone. There's a city council, yes, but it's theater. Corporate envoys, nomad delegates, and street fixers arguing over scraps of power. Real authority lies with whoever can pay for it. Money and muscle speak louder than laws. The NCPD still calls itself a police force, but loyalty comes at a price. MaxTac hunts cyberpsychos when it chooses to, and the green zones stay quiet under corporate security patrols. Everywhere else, protection comes from gangs, nomads, or edge runners willing to take a job. Safety isn't granted here. It's negotiated. And yet, the lights never go out. Night Corp keeps the grid alive, the last remnant of Richard Knight's idealism. No one really trusts them, but everyone depends on them. Without Night Corp, the pumps would dry up and the city would stop breathing. Look closer, and Night City divides itself into 3 living layers. Each tells the story of the time of the Red. At the center lies the hot zone, the wound that never healed. Once the corporate plaza, now a crater of melted steel and broken glass. The air hums with radiation. Only the reclaimers walk there, wrapped in plastic and filters, scavenging what's left of the old world. Around it rise the green zones, where the new world tries to grow. The Glen, New Watson, the University District. Orbital Air builds its launch site on Morrow Rock. Reaching for orbit again, construction cranes pierce the skyline beside blackened towers that still stand in silence. And beyond those, stretching for miles, are the orange zones, the city's restless lungs. Haywood, Santo Domingo, Rancho Coronado. Endless camps of shipping containers and tarp homes. Nomads bring food and medicine. Gangs control the streets. Families build lives one day at a time. From above, the pattern is clear. A radioactive heart, a ring of chrome, and a sea of people refusing to disappear. Night City shouldn't exist, but it does. It's the soul of the Red Era, scarred, hungry, and still alive. A monument to everything humanity lost, and everything it refuses to surrender. If you want to understand the time of the Red, look at the street. Not the towers, not the councils, the street. Because survival happens down here, one job at a time. The global economy died with the old net. When the data crash shattered trust in every digital system, the world stopped moving. No shipping lanes, no automated warehouses, no instant transfers or clean databases. People had to rebuild everything from the ground up. Night City adapted the only way it could. It created a new kind of economy, small, local, personal. Every trade built on reputation instead of records. And at the center of that system stand the fixers. They are the brokers of the Red Era, the ones who know who needs muscle, who needs protection, who needs a crew to steal something, rebuild something, or make something disappear. If the city breathes, the fixers control the airflow. But they don't work alone. Their markets shape the entire street. The night markets, pop-up bazaars hidden in alleys or under broken overpasses lit by generators and stolen neon signs. Crowds of people trading cyberware, weapons, food, reclaimed tech, and whatever else keeps life moving. Nothing is corporate. Nothing is mass-produced. Everything is found, repaired, or built by hand. That is where the reclaimers come in. They climb the old ruins in has-suits, dragging out scraps of the 2020s, circuit boards, power cells, weapon frames, broken optics, anything that can be stripped, rebuilt, or repurposed. They turn the dead city into a supply chain. For edge runners, this world is a cycle. They take jobs from fixers. They hustle wherever their skills give them an edge. They trade or salvage whatever they can find. And everything they earn disappears the moment the month ends, because Night City charges a price for being alive. You pay for your housing, you pay for your lifestyle. If you miss either one, you fall straight into the gutter, and the gutter does not give second chances. Cyberware makes it even harder. Every implant costs a piece of your humanity. Lose too much, and the line between person and machine starts to blur. To stay balanced, you need rest, real food, comfort, connection. All of that costs money, more than most can ever save. So the cycle continues. People take bigger risks, install better chrome, lose more humanity, work harder to earn enough to buy it back. This is the Red Era's trap. It keeps the street moving, it keeps the city alive. And it keeps edge runners walking a line that can break under their feet at any moment. This is the economy of 2045. Small, scraped together, held up by fixers, reclaimers, and the people desperate enough to take the next job. A world where ambition and survival cost the same price. Every era has ghosts, but the time of the Red is built on them. 3 names echo through every bar, every market, every back alley job board in Night City. Johnny Silverhand, Morgan Blackhand, Alt Cunningham. Their stories shape the end of the world, and their absence shapes everything that came after. Start with Johnny. People still argue about how he died. Some say he faced down Atom Smasher on the rooftop. Some claim he was soul-killed by Arasaka. But the truth is quieter and crueler. Inside the tower, in the chaos of the assault, Smasher ended him with a shotgun blast. No final stand, no dramatic duel. Just violence, fast and absolute. But death didn't end his myth, it amplified it. Johnny became the perfect scapegoat for the nuclear devastation that followed. The world blamed him. Night City idolized him. And somewhere in the ruins, his body was found. 15 years later, in 2038, a firefighter turned edge runner named Samantha Stevens uncovered his preserved remains and handed them to a shadow figure called Angel. From there, he vanished from history again. Only the legend stayed behind. Morgan Blackhand is different. He was the real mastermind of the Arasaka Tower assault. The one Militech trusted to carry the bomb. The one who actually climbed to the rooftop and met Atom Smasher blow for blow as the tower crumbled under their feet. And when the nuke detonated, both men disappeared into the fire. To this day, Black Hand is missing in action. No body, no confirmed sighting, just rumors whispered across every free state. A face spotted in a dusty outpost, a voice recognized on a broken radio, a shadow watching from a rooftop. Whether he survived or not, the myth of Black Hand remains one of the Red Era's last unanswered questions. Then there is Alt Cunningham, the woman who created Soul Killer, the first mind torn from her body and reborn inside the net. She became something new, not an AI, not a ghost, something in between. A digital consciousness with the memories, instincts, and heart of the woman she once was. When the DataKrash hit, Alt endured. While rogue AIs overran the network, she carved out hidden sanctuaries inside the ruined old net. People call them ghost towns, quiet spaces built from broken code where other digitized souls could survive. A refuge for victims of Soul Killer, a kingdom of the forgotten. By 2045, Alt lives in those shadows, watching, guarding, guiding the ones who are trapped like her. A digital queen in a world that fears what she represents. Her story doesn't end here, but in the time of the Red, she remains one of its brightest and loneliest lights. 3 legends, 1 dead, 1 missing, 1 transformed. The world they helped break is still trying to rebuild itself, and their echoes shape every step toward the future. When you step back and look at the time of the Red, you see a world that never shattered cleanly. It cracked, it bled, it burned, but it didn't fall apart all the way. It froze in a state between destruction and rebirth. The old world of nation-states is gone. The new United States holds the East Coast, but its grip ends at the horizon. Beyond that, the continent breaks into free states that govern themselves because no one else can reach them. Distance matters again. So does terrain. So does the simple ability to move goods from one place to another. And that is why the nomad nations rose. They didn't inherit the world. They filled the void. Their convoys became the arteries of civilization. Every crate of medicine, every tank of fuel, every shipment of cyberware parts, it all moves through nomad hands. Without them, the Red Era collapses in a week. The corporate world survived too, but nothing like before. The megacorps of the 2020s ruled through global networks. The DataKrash cut those networks down in a single tidal wave. The survivors became something new, smaller, hungrier, focused on resources instead of armies, fuel, biotech, transport, infrastructure, the building blocks of recovery. Militech clings to the NUSA. Arasaka lurks in the shadows, but the real power sits with core like Petrochem, Biotechnica, Savoil, and Orbital Air. Not because they won a war, because they control what the world cannot live without. And beneath them all lies Night City, a scar glowing in the dark, a half-rebuilt monument to everything the Red Era stands for, people scraping by, fixers pulling strings. Nomads rolling in and out with the lifeblood of the continent, a city that shouldn't exist but refuses to die. This is the shape of 2045, a world stitched together by convoys, bargains, and desperation. A world where survival depends on community as much as Chrome A world, waiting for the next spark that will ignite the future. The time of the Red is not the end of civilization. It is the pause, the breath before the next era. And every story that comes after, including 2077, rises from these ashes. The time of the Red stands as one of the most defining eras in cyberpunk history. A world rebuilt from fallout and broken glass. A world held together by convoys, street markets, and the stubborn will to survive. Everything that rises later begins here. These decades shape the future more than the world ever admits. The Free States find their footing. The nomad nations become a global force. The Neocorps rebuild the foundations of power brick by brick. Night City climbs out of the crater and becomes the center of a new age. The red is a reminder of how fragile civilization can be, and how far people are willing to go to rebuild it. Every ruined street and every flickering neon sign tells a part of that story. Thank you for watching this deep dive into the time of the Red. If you want more lore, more history, and more hidden details from the Cyberpunk universe, make sure to like the video and subscribe to the channel. Your support helps bring these stories to life. Thanks again for being here. I'll see you in the next one.